Welcome to EPG Pathshala. Today we are going to discuss the topic Comptroller and Auditor General, which is a part of the course Economic and Financial Administration. The subject coordinator for this course is Professor I. Ramabrahmam and the paper coordinator is Professor Sanjeev Mahajan. I am Dr. Geetandar, Assistant Professor from Department of Public Administration, Punjabi University, Patiala. And we will be discussing the topic Comptroller and Auditor General, in which I would like to discuss the significance of audit and audit machinery, the constitutional and legal provisions relating to the office of Comptroller and Auditor General in India, and lastly, the role and functioning of Comptroller and Auditor General. As the Comptroller and Auditor General is the head of the audit machinery of any country, it is very important to understand the concept and significance of audit. Audit is a process of ascertaining whether the administration has spent or spending the funds in accordance with the terms of legislature which appropriated the money. This is a very simple meaning of audit. And audit, according to me, is the most essential aspect of the financial management of any country. It plays a very crucial role in the sense, firstly, as I said earlier, it checks whether the public money has been properly spent or not. Secondly, it enforces the public accountability of officials in financial matters. Thirdly, it provides a deterrent against careless financial decision making. And lastly, it boosts the public confidence by bringing to their knowledge the real state of public finance. The significance of audit is also because it makes an assessment of the efficiency, effectiveness, and economy, that is, the 3 E's in the use of public resources. Now, considering the immense significance of audit for the financial management, every nation in the world has an elaborate audit machinery. And at the top of this machinery is usually the institution of the Comptroller and Auditor General. He is also known as CAG. But the nomenclature of Comptroller and Auditor General varies from country to country. If we talk about India, the audit structure in India has gradually evolved over a period of time. The office of Comptroller and Auditor General in India is mainly a British legacy. It was in the year of 1853 that the Department of Indian Audit and Accounts was created. 4 years later, in 1857, the Office of Auditor General appeared. But it was the Government of India Act 1919 which made the Auditor General independent of the Government of India. So the independence of the Office of Auditor General is basically owed to the Government of India Act 1919. The position of the Comptroller and Auditor General was further strengthened by the Government of India Act 1935. When India got independent in the year 1947 and our constitution came in 1950, we chose to continue with the legacy of Britishers, but we changed the designation of Comptroller and Auditor General from Auditor General to Comptroller and Auditor General, and a constitutional status was accorded to it. The office of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India is the supreme audit institution of the country. Comptroller and Auditor General of India is the head of the Indian Audit and Accounts Department, and thus he is neither a part of the legislature nor the executive, but is an officer created by the Constitution to see that diverse authorities act in regard to all the financial matters in accordance with the Constitution and the laws and the rules framed thereunder. As we said that the post or the office of Comptroller and Auditor General is a constitutional one, there are provisions in the Constitution under Articles 148 to 151 which deal with his office. To begin with, Article 148, Clause 1 of the Constitution of India deals with the appointment of Comptroller and Auditor General. It says that the Comptroller and Auditor General of India is appointed by the President and by warrant under his hand and seal. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India is appointed for a term of 6 years or 65 years of age, whichever is earlier. Regarding his removal, it is said that he can be removed from office in the manner and on the grounds as in the case of a judge of the Supreme Court. So we see that his office has been equated with that of the judge of a Supreme Court. The salary and conditions of the service of Comptroller and Auditor General are determined by the Parliament by law. And that's why his emoluments are equal to that of the judge of a Supreme Court. He is entitled to receive pension after his retirement. The Comptroller and Auditor General has to work fearlessly and independently because Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said that he is the one man in the entire country who has to see that the expenses voted by the Parliament are not exceeded or varied from what has been laid down by the Parliament in what is called the Appropriation Act. And for this, certain safeguards should be provided to him. The safeguards that have been provided to Comptroller and Auditor General consists of, firstly, he can be removed from the office only on grounds of proven misbehavior or incapacity after an address by both the Houses of Parliament supported by a 2/3 majority. Secondly, his salary and conditions of service cannot be varied to his disadvantage after appointment. Thirdly, he shall not be eligible for further office under the Government of India or any state after the retirement. Fourthly, the administrative expenses of the Office of Comptroller and Auditor General are charged upon the Consolidated Fund of India, which means they are not subject to being voted by the Parliament. And lastly, the administrative powers of Comptroller and Auditor General and conditions of service of persons serving in the Indian Audit and Accounts Department are prescribed by rules made by the President only after consulting him. The jurisdiction of the Comptroller and Auditor General is very wide. The organizations subject to the audit of Comptroller and Auditor General are, firstly, all the union and state government departments, all the public commercial enterprises controlled by union and states, that is, government companies and corporations. Thirdly, non-commercial autonomous bodies owned or controlled by union and states. Fourthly, all the authorities and bodies substantially financed from union and state revenues. Fifthly, companies where equity participation by the government is of 51% or more. And lastly, the regulatory bodies such as TRAI, that is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, State Electricity Regulatory Commission, and Insurance and Regulatory Development Authority of India. Since The jurisdiction of Comptroller and Auditor General is widespread. He needs a team of people to work with him in order to discharge his duties properly. At the head of the audit machine in India, we have Comptroller and Auditor General of India. He is assisted by Deputy Comptroller and Auditor General in the areas of administration and staff, commercial, defense, communication and railways, central revenue, audit, report, central and local bodies, government accounts, etc. And then we have additional Deputy Comptroller and Auditor Generals in the areas of inspection, professional practices group, and working in northern region, southern region, western region, central region, and northeastern region. There is also an audit advisory board which functions under the chairmanship of the Comptroller and Auditor General and comprises of internal as well as external members. This board provides suggestions on matters relating to audit. The counterpart of Comptroller and Auditor General in states is the Accountant Generals, who have the mandate to perform accounting and auditing functions. Coming to the duties and powers of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, we can say that he derives his position and authority with regard to the external audit of the expenditure and receipts of the union and state governments from the Constitution of India. As mentioned earlier, there are certain articles which deal with the Office of Comptroller and Auditor General, specifically Articles 149 to Articles 151 of the Constitution authorizes the Parliament to prescribe the duties and powers of the Comptroller and Auditor General in relation to the accounts of the Union and of the states and of any other authority or body. Accordingly, the Parliament in India enacted the Comptroller and Auditor General's Duties, Powers and Conditions of Service Act 1971. This act was amended in 1976. Till 1976, the accounting and auditing functions of the CAG were combined. The act was amended to separate the accounts from audit in the Union government, and the responsibility of Comptroller and Auditor General in regard to accounting functions was thus significantly curtailed. With the implementation of the scheme of departmentalization of accounts from April 1976, the Comptroller and Auditor General was relieved from the responsibility for compiling the accounts of the Union government. Presently, the duties and functions of the CAG as laid down in the Comptroller and Auditor General's Duties, Powers and Conditions of Service Act 1971 are as following. Firstly, to audit and report on all receipts and expenditure from the Consolidated Fund of India and of the states and union territories to ascertain whether the monies shown in the accounts have been disbursed were legally available for and applicable to the service or purpose for which they have been charged, and whether the expenditure confirms the authority which governs it. Secondly, to audit and report all transactions relating to the contingency funds and public accounts of the Union and the states. Thirdly, to audit and report on all trading, manufacturing, profit and loss accounts, etc., kept by any department of the Union or a state. Fourthly, to audit and report on the accounts of the government companies and other corporations when required by law. This is especially under the Government of Companies Act 1956. Next is to audit and report receipts and expenditure of bodies or authorities who are substantially financed from the union and the state revenues. Since anybody is using the finance of the public finance, then it becomes the duty of the Comptroller and Auditor General to audit the receipts and expenditure of that body. To audit and report on accounts of stores kept in any office or department of the union or of a state. Next, to audit all accounts and balance sheets and subsidiary accounts kept in any department of the union or of a state. The CAG is also authorized to scrutinize the procedure under which the grants and loans are sanctioned to other authorities and bodies from the Consolidated Fund of India. He also has the power to ask for any book, paper, or any other document dealing with the accounts. The reports of the Comptroller and Auditor General relating to the accounts of the Union are submitted to the President and to the state governments concerned. These reports are then placed before the Parliament and the state legislatures. It is the duty of the Governor of the state to cause these reports to be laid before the legislature of the state, and similarly, the President of India is also under the obligation to place the reports of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India in the Parliament. Well, when the reports of the Comptroller and Auditor General are placed before the Parliament, it is done so in two parts. First is finance accounts, which gives a picture of the entire receipts and expenditure of the government. And second part is the appropriate accounts, in which are given the details of the amount sanctioned in the Appropriation Act or Acts and the amount actually spent under each grant. After making a discussion of the duties and powers of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, we can make an assessment of the role played by the Comptroller and Auditor General in the financial management of the country. We see that Comptroller and Auditor General has performed the real duty of that of an auditor. His audit functions primarily verify the accuracy and completeness of accounts and ensure that all financial transactions have been properly recorded in the accounts and correctly classified. The Comptroller and Auditor General has also acted as the watchdog in the sense that he makes certain that various authorities and bodies with regard to financial matters act in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, laws, and rules. The Office of Comptroller and Auditor General has also made a significant contribution in improving the state of financial management in the country. A large number of critical issues like ineffective budgetary control, poor management of resources, wastage of public resources, shortcomings in revenue collection, irregularities in public expenditure, inappropriate accounting practices, and diversion of funds, etc., have been raised in the audit reports submitted by him. Comptroller and Auditor General of India, through his audit, has also brought to light several scams in the recent times which have caused tremendous losses to public exchequer. The notable scams unearthed by the Comptroller and Auditor General are 2G spectrum scam, Antriksh Devas deal scam, and coal block allocation scam. The Comptroller and Auditor General has been able to unearth the scams as well as the irregularities in the financial management of the country due to the several strengths which are inherent in his institution. The firstly is that he has a constitutionally high status which has been sustained by long traditions of public audit. Secondly, his autonomy has been ensured in public audit by the constitutions. We have dealt in the lecture earlier the constitutional provisions which give independence to his office. The scope of external audit conducted by the Comptroller and Auditor General is very wide. He has the power to determine its nature and extent. The Comptroller and Auditor General also has a vast authority to inspect the accounts offices and have access to records and relevant information. Comptroller and Auditor General also has the authority to determine as to what should be included in the audit report. He has developed well-documented audit manuals, standards, and guidelines which are followed by the auditors. Comptroller and Auditor General is also regarded as the friend, philosopher, and guide of the Public Accounts Committee of the Parliament because it helps the PAC, that is Public Accounts Committee, in examining and scrutinizing the audit reports and in preparing the report which is submitted by the Public Accounts Committee to the Parliament or the state legislature. In spite of performing so well, the Office of the Comptroller and Auditor General suffers from certain shortcomings. Certain observations have been made regarding the external audit carried out by the Comptroller and Auditor General. Firstly, there is a considerable time gap between the occurrence of an irregularity and its reporting in the audit report that certainly defeats the entire purpose of auditing or checking. Secondly, the findings in the audit reports are mostly negative in nature. Rather, they should be recommendatory or positive in nature. Thirdly, there is inadequate coordination between the internal audit and the external audit. Fourthly, the relationship between the auditor and the agency audited is at times not harmonious. Both the auditor and the agency which has to be audited look with each other with doubt. The audited reports lie pending in the legislature for a long time, and thus they are not brought to the light to the public. Secondly, to audit all transactions of the Union and of the states relating to contingency funds and public accounts. Thirdly, to audit all trading, manufacturing, profit and loss accounts and balance sheets and other subsidiary accounts kept in any department of the Union or of a state, and in each case to report on the expenditure, transactions, or accounts so audited by him. Fourthly, where any body or authority is substantially financed by grants or loans from the Consolidated Fund of India or of any state or of any union territory having a legislative assembly, the Comptroller and Auditor General shall, subject to the provisions of any law for the time being in force applicable to the body or authority, as the case may be, audit all receipts and expenditure of that body or authority and to report on the receipts and expenditure audited by him. Fifthly, where any grant or loan is given for any specific purpose from the Consolidated Fund of India or of any state or of any union territory having a legislative assembly to any authority or body, not being a foreign state or international organization, the Comptroller and Auditor General shall scrutinize the procedures by which the sanctioning authority satisfies itself as to the fulfillment of the conditions subject to which such grants or loans were given, and shall for his purpose have right of access after giving reasonable previous notice to the books and accounts of that authority or body. Sixthly, it shall be the duty of the Comptroller and Auditor General to audit all receipts which are payable into the Consolidated Fund of India and of each state and of each union territory having a legislative assembly, and to satisfy himself that the rules and procedures in that behalf are designed to secure an effective check on the assessment, collection, and proper allocation of revenue, and are being duly observed, and to make for this purpose such examination of the accounts as he thinks fit and report thereon. Seventhly, the Comptroller and Auditor General shall have the authority to audit and report on the accounts of stores and stock kept in any office or department of the Union or of a state. The Comptroller and Auditor General shall, in connection with the performance of his duties under the Comptroller and Auditor General Duties, Powers and Conditions of Service Act, also have the authority to inspect any office of accounts under the control of the Union or of a state, including treasuries and such offices responsible for keeping of initial or subsidiary accounts as submit accounts to him. He also has the authority to require that any accounts, books, papers, and other documents which deal with or form the basis of or an otherwise relevant to the transactions to which his duties in respect of audit extend, shall be sent to such place as he may appoint for his inspection. He can also put such questions or make such observations as he may consider necessary to the person in charge of the office, and to call for such information as he may require for the preparation of any account or report which it is his duty to prepare. Lastly, the duties and powers of the Comptroller and Auditor General in India in relation to the audit of accounts of the government companies shall be performed and exercised by him in accordance with the provisions of the Companies Act 1956, and the duties and powers of the Comptroller and Auditor General in relation to the audit of the accounts of corporations, not being companies, established by or under law made by Parliament, shall be performed and exercised by him in accordance with the provisions of the respective legislations. To conclude, we can say that the institution of the Comptroller and Auditor General is the supreme audit institution which is successfully fulfilling its mandated duties to promote accountability, transparency, credibility, and good governance in the field of public finance. I would say that he has emerged as an independent and a credible institution by bringing to light many financial irregularities and scams. We know that through his regular audits, he has highlighted the issues concerning the public finance. We know that the task of auditing is a mammoth one, and the external audit of the Comptroller and Auditor General faces a number of challenges. So there is a need to address them in genuine spirit so that the Comptroller and Auditor General can discharge his duties efficiently and effectively. And he will then be the true custodian of the public finance in India. Thank you.